6 months later, Captain Lee Tae-min walked through the gates of Riverside Elementary School on Earth. The morning sun was shining, and he could hear the sounds of children playing in the schoolyard. It was a normal day, and that was exactly what made him smile. "Captain Lee," called a familiar voice. He turned to see Kim Jae-woo running toward him, backpack bouncing. The 10-year-old boy looked healthy and happy, completely different from the frightened child Lee Tae-min had seen in those terrible cages. "Jae-woo, how are you doing?" "Great. I started an interstellar friendship club at school. We're learning about different alien species and how to be good neighbors in space." Lee Tae-min knelt down to the boy's level. "That sounds wonderful. What have you learned so far?" "Well, the Kalari like music, so we wrote them a song. And the Altarians celebrate something called Light Day, so we made them cards. Oh, and we learned that Vorthak don't really understand families like humans do, so they didn't know they were being mean." The captain was amazed by the boy's wisdom and forgiveness. "You're not angry at them anymore?" Kim Jae-woo shrugged. "Mom says being angry doesn't help anything. But she also says if anyone ever tries to hurt kids again, she'll personally fly out there and kick their butts." Lee Tae-min laughed. "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She is. She's teaching me to pilot shuttles so I can help explore space when I grow up. I want to make sure kids from different planets can be friends." Across the playground, Lee Tae-min spotted Park So-jin playing with a group of children. She was teaching them a clapping game and laughing. Her teacher, Ms. Jung In-young, walked over to join the conversation. "Captain Lee, I'm So-jin's teacher. Thank you for coming to visit. The children have been excited all week. How are they all doing?" "Remarkably well. They've all had counseling and their families have been very supportive. So-jin has been learning some Kalari language. She wants to be a translator when she grows up." At that moment, Park So-jin noticed Captain Lee and ran over. "Captain, did you bring pictures of your ship?" "Of course I did." He pulled out a tablet showing images of the new Sol. "And I brought something else." He handed her a small package. Inside was a friendship bracelet made by the Kalari children on their homeworld. The crystal beads sparkled in the sunlight. "They wanted you to know they're thinking of you," he explained. So-jin's eyes lit up as she put on the bracelet. "It's beautiful." "Can you tell them I said thank you?" "I will." The school principal, Mr. Bae Sung-ho, approached the group. "Captain Lee, would you mind speaking to our students during assembly today? They're studying space exploration and interstellar relations." "I'd be honored." An hour later, Lee Tae-min stood in front of 200 children in the school auditorium. Kim Jae-woo and Park So-jin sat in the front row with their rescued friends. Behind them, hundreds of curious young faces looked up at him. "How many of you want to explore space when you grow up?" he asked. Most of the hands in the room shot up. "Good. Space is full of wonderful things and amazing friends waiting to meet you. But space exploration isn't just about discovering new worlds. It's about building bridges between different species and making sure everyone is safe and happy." A girl in the third row raised her hand. "Captain, is it true that some aliens tried to hurt the kids in the front row?" Lee Tae-min chose his words carefully. "Some aliens made a mistake because they didn't understand how important children are to humans. But they learned from their mistake and now they help make sure all children in space are protected." Kim Jae-woo stood up. "Captain, can you tell them about the new rules?" "Absolutely." Lee Tae-min activated his tablet, showing an official document on the screen. "This is called the Galactic Child Protection Accord. It says that no species anywhere in space is allowed to harm children from any other species. If they do, all the other species work together to stop them." "Who signed it?" asked another student. "Every single species in the Galactic Consortium. Even the Vorthak signed it and promised to follow it." After the assembly, Lee Tae-min visited the Human Fleet Academy on Earth's moon. In Admiral Yoon Hae-jin's office, they reviewed reports from across human space. "The Vorthak have been surprisingly cooperative," Admiral Yoon reported. "Vextal was stripped of his research authority and is now working in data analysis. The Vorthak government paid full reparations to all the families and established a new department focused on ethical first contact protocols." "And the other species?" "The incident has had interesting effects. Several species have asked for human assistance in updating their own child protection laws. The Kalari want to establish an exchange program where human and Kalari children can learn about each other's cultures." Lee Tae-min smiled. "The children would love that." "There's something else," Admiral Yoon continued. "We've received formal requests from 12 species asking for human protection during their exploration missions." Apparently, word has spread that threatening human children is inadvisable. Good. Fear isn't the goal, but respect for children is. Later that evening, Lee Taemin received a video call from Commander Oh Sung-ho, who was now Admiral Oh after his promotion. Behind him, the bridge of his new flagship, the Soul Defender, bustled with activity. Taemin, have you seen the report from the Outer Rim? Which one? A Zarathi splinter group tried to raid a human colony. When they realized there were children in the settlement, they actually retreated without firing a shot. Seriously? The raider captain sent a message saying they did not wish to anger the child protectors. I think our reputation is spreading. That night, as Lee Taemin prepared for sleep, he received one more message. It was from young Kim Jae-woo, sent through his parents' communication system. Captain Lee, I wanted to tell you something. At school today, we learned that humans are famous all over the galaxy now. Not because we're scary or because we have big guns, but because we take care of kids. I think that's really cool. When I grow up and become a space explorer, I want to be famous for the same reason. Thanks for rescuing us. Your friend, Jae-woo. Attached to the message was a drawing the boy had made. It showed human ships surrounding the Vorthak station, but instead of weapons firing, the ships were shooting rainbow bridges that led the children to safety. Lee Taemin hung the picture on his wall next to the official commendation he had received for the rescue mission. The drawing was more important to him than any medal. Across the galaxy, the story of the rescue had become legend. On every world where humans lived or traded, the same lesson was told. Humanity will travel any distance, fight any enemy, and overcome any obstacle to protect their children. And in the deepest reaches of space, where pirates and raiders planned their attacks, one rule was now absolute: never threaten human children. Because somewhere in human space, Admiral Oh Sung-ho kept a photo of 12 rescued children on his desk. And when alien diplomats asked about humanity's military capabilities, he would point to that picture and say simply, "We protect our own." The galaxy had learned that humans were not the strongest species, or the smartest, or the most advanced. But they were the species that loved their children more than their own lives, and that made them the most dangerous species of all to those who would harm the innocent. In classrooms across human space, children like Kim Jae-woo and Park So-jin grew up knowing they were protected. They learned languages, made alien friends, and dreamed of exploring the stars. They were the future of humanity, curious, brave, and kind. And the galaxy was a safer place because their parents were willing to fight anyone who tried to put them in cages. The Galactic Consortium Council chambers had never been this quiet. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, all watching the center stage where Ambassador Choi Min-jun of the Human Federation stood waiting to speak. Council Speaker Velthar, a tall blue-skinned Altarian, called the emergency session to order. The council recognizes Ambassador Choi Min-jun of the Human Federation. "The floor is yours, Ambassador." Choi Min-jun walked to the center of the circular chamber. He was a calm man in his 50s, known for his diplomatic skill and patience. Today, however, his usual gentle manner was gone. His face was stone-cold serious. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's speakers. 3 days ago, the Vorthak Research Division committed an act that my species considers unforgivable. On the great view screen behind him, images appeared. The rescued children aboard the medical vessel Busan Hope, being checked by Dr. Han Soleil and her team. The children looked tired but were smiling, happy to be safe. "These are human children," Choi Min-jun continued, ages 6 through 12. For 4 days they were held captive in research facilities, treated as experimental subjects and studied like laboratory animals. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species had children of their own and understood the emotional impact of Choi Min-jun's words. The Vorthak researcher responsible, Chief Researcher Vextal, has claimed this was legal under consortium research protocols. He said our children were primitive specimens from an unprotected world. Ambassador Choi's voice grew harder. "I am here to inform this council that Earth is not unprotected. Earth is the homeworld of humanity, the species that ended the Zarathi War, the species that has never lost a military conflict, and the species that considers the protection of children to be their highest moral duty." In the Vorthak section, the few remaining representatives looked uncomfortable. Most of their delegation had been recalled to their homeworld after the incident. You have violated the most sacred principle of our species, Choi Min-jun declared, his words echoing in the silent chamber. In your ignorance, you have harmed our children. Council Speaker Velthar leaned forward. Ambassador Choi, the consortium understands human concern, but surely this incident can be resolved through normal diplomatic channels. Choi Min-jun turned to face the speaker. Speaker Velthar, let me be very clear about something. When someone threatens human children, there are no normal diplomatic channels. There is only justice and consequences. On the view screen, new images appeared. The massive human fleet that had assembled for the rescue, over 60 warships of various classes, all summoned within hours when the alarm was raised. This fleet represents less than 2% of human military capability, Choi Min-jun said calmly. It assembled in 4 hours. Every ship dropped what it was doing. Trade missions, exploration, diplomatic duties, the moment they learned children were in danger. The chamber was completely silent now. Representatives were staring at the screen showing the impressive human fleet. I want you all to understand something about my species, the ambassador continued. We are generally peaceful. We prefer trade to war, cooperation to conflict. But when you threaten our young, you discover why we have never been conquered. In the medical vessel, Busenhope, Dr. Han Sol-ai was finishing her examinations of the rescued children. Kim Jae-woo, the boy who had kept the others organized during their captivity, was helping translate for some of the younger children who were too shy to talk to the alien medical staff. How are they doing, Doctor? Asked Captain Lee Taemin, who had come aboard to check on the children personally. Remarkably well, Dr. Han Sola replied. They show signs of stress but no permanent damage. Children are more resilient than adults sometimes think. I want to go home, said little Park So-jin, hugging her doll. I want to see my mommy and daddy. You will, Captain Lee promised. We're taking you home right now. Back in the council chambers, Ambassador Choi was continuing his speech. The children are safe now thanks to the quick action of our military forces. But this incident has taught us something important about how some species view human life. He activated a recording device. Vextel's voice filled the chamber, speaking the words he had said during the rescue. These creatures show interesting pack-bonding behaviors and produce fascinating chemical responses to stress. Surely you understand the value of scientific inquiry? The recording ended, and Choi Min-jun let the silence stretch before speaking again. The Vorthak researcher saw frightened children and called their fear fascinating chemical responses. He watched them comfort each other and called it pack-bonding behaviors. He caged them and called it scientific inquiry. Several representatives in the chamber looked disturbed. Even species that were very different from humans could recognize the coldness in Vextal's words. This cannot happen again, Choi Min-jun stated firmly. Not to human children, and not to the children of any species. He paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from different species. The Human Federation offers this council one opportunity to make this situation right. First, any and all humans currently held by any consortium member must be released immediately. Second, full reparations must be paid to the families of the children who were taken. Third, new protocols must be established to prevent such incidents from occurring again. Council Speaker Velthar nodded slowly. And if the council agrees to these terms, then we can continue our peaceful relationships and move forward together. And if we do not agree? Ambassador Choi's expression did not change, but somehow his presence seemed to fill the entire chamber. Then you will discover why the Zerathi Empire, despite controlling half the galaxy, chose to surrender rather than continue fighting humans. The threat was clear, but it was delivered so calmly that it was even more frightening. The Human Federation is not asking for revenge, Choi Min-jun continued. We are asking for justice and assurance that this will never happen again. Our children are not specimens. They are not test subjects. They are the future of our species, and we will protect them with everything we have. On the view screen, new images appeared. Happy human families reuniting with their children as the rescue ships returned to Earth. Parents crying with relief as they hugged their sons and daughters. These children have forgiven their captors, Choi Min-jun said, his voice softening slightly. Young Kim Jae-woo even asked if the Vorthak scientist was sorry for what he did. That is the nature of human children. They are quick to forgive and eager to make friends. He paused and his voice became hard again. But human adults are different. We do not forgive those who harm our young. We do not forget those who threaten our children. And we do not give second chances to species that treat our families as laboratory animals. The ambassador walked back to the center of the chamber. The choice is yours, honored representatives. Work with us to prevent this from happening again. Or discover what happens when humanity considers you an enemy of our children. Council Speaker Velthar looked around the chamber. He could see the expressions on the faces of the representatives. Fear, concern, and determination to avoid conflict with the species that had just demonstrated they could mobilize massive military force in hours. The council will vote on the human proposals immediately, he announced. All in favor? 46 hands rose in the air. Only the empty Vorthax section remained silent. The proposals are approved unanimously, Velthar declared. Ambassador Choi Min-jun nodded. Thank you. The children of the galaxy will be safer because of your decision today. As he left the chamber, every representative knew they had just witnessed history. They had seen what happened when someone threatened human children. They had learned why humanity had never lost a war. Captain Nam Subin led the boarding party through the damaged corridors of the Vorthak research station. Her team moved quickly but carefully, their weapons ready. The station's emergency lights cast red shadows on the white metal walls. Dr. Park Dong-hyun, what's the status on those life signs? She asked through her communicator. I'm reading 12 human children all alive in Section 7 Gamma, came the reply from the medical officer aboard the Busan Thunder. Their life signs are stable but show signs of stress. Copy that. We're 2 minutes away. Behind them, the Vorthak crew members they had encountered offered no resistance. Most of them seemed too shocked to understand what was happening. Their mighty research station had been disabled in minutes by ships they thought were primitive. Captain Nam Subin's team reached a sealed door marked with alien symbols. She gestured to Sergeant Lee Hyunwoo, who attached a small device to the door's control panel. Human technology breaking Vorthak security systems, he said with satisfaction. 10 seconds. The door slid open to reveal a long corridor lined with transparent chambers. Inside the chambers were the children. Captain Nam Subin felt her heart break and her anger flare at the same time. The children looked so small and frightened in their cages. Some were sleeping, exhausted from crying. Others sat quietly, holding on to small toys or pieces of clothing. It's okay, she called out in a gentle voice. We're humans. We're here to take you home. Young Kim Jae-woo was the first to respond. He stood up in his chamber and pressed his hands against the transparent wall. Are you real? He asked. Or are these the aliens trying to trick us again? Captain Nam Subin smiled and pulled off her helmet, showing her human face. I'm real. My name is Captain Nam Subin, and I have a little boy about your age at home. We've come to rescue you. The effect was immediate. Children began standing up in their chambers, hope replacing fear on their faces. Park So-jin started crying, but these were tears of relief. Can you get us out? Asked a boy named Cho Min-seo. The boxes won't open from inside. Sergeant Lee Hyunwoo was already working on the control systems. Give me 30 seconds. While he worked, Captain Nam Subin talked to the children, keeping them calm. What are your names? How long have you been here? I'm Kim Jae-woo, said the boy who had been organizing the others. They took us 4 days ago. We were on a field trip to the Space Museum on Luna Colony when their ship appeared. I'm Park So-jin, said the girl with the doll. They said we were specimens. What does that mean? Before Captain Nam Subin could answer, the chambers began opening with soft hissing sounds. The children rushed out and several of them ran straight to the human soldiers for hugs. It means they made a mistake, Captain Nam Subin said, kneeling down to hug Park So-jin. A very big mistake. At that moment, Chief Researcher Vextal appeared at the end of the corridor with 2 Vorthak guards. The tall insect-like alien clicked angrily in his own language before switching to Galactic Common. Stop. You cannot remove the specimens. This research is vital to galactic science. Captain Nam Subin stood up slowly, her hand moving to her weapon. The only thing vital right now is getting these children to safety. You do not understand, Vextal clicked desperately. These creatures show remarkable intelligence and cooperation for such a primitive species. The young one organized the others into social groups. The small female created art using food coloring. They demonstrate pack-bonding behaviors unlike anything in our database. Kim Jae-woo stepped forward, surprising everyone. Mr. Bug Alien, we're not specimens. We're kids. And our parents are probably really mad at you right now. Vextal stared down at the small human with confusion. Impossible. Primitive species do not develop complex emotional family structures until they achieve technological advancement. Shows what you know, said 8-year-old Yoon Ji-ae, who had been quiet until now. My mom is a starship engineer and my dad is a Marine. They're both probably coming to get us. As if on cue, Commander Oh Sung-ho's voice echoed through the station's communication system. All Vorthak personnel, this is Commander Oh Sung-ho of the Human Federation Fleet. Your station is now under human control. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. Vextal's compound eyes widened as he finally began to understand. These creatures, they are your young. Your offspring? That's right, said Captain Nam Subin. And you put them in cages. For the first time, Vextal seemed to grasp the magnitude of his error. In Vorthak culture, young were cared for by the entire hive until they were old enough to contribute. The idea of caging another species' young was beginning to horrify him, but our scans showed no technological advancement on their world. How could primitive creatures be related to species with such advanced weapons? Kim Jae-woo looked up at the tall alien. We're kids. We don't need weapons. We have grown-ups for that. The simple statement hit Vextal like a physical blow. He was realizing that his specimens were not primitive creatures at all. They were the children of the species that had just destroyed his defenses in minutes. Dr. Park. Dong-hyun arrived with a medical team to check on the children. As they ran scanners and handed out blankets and snacks, Admiral Yoon Hee-jin's voice came through the communications. Commander, this is Admiral Yoon. I'm arriving with the main fleet in 20 minutes. I want to speak with whoever is responsible for this situation. Vextal began to tremble. His guards had already surrendered their weapons and were backing away from the humans. Admiral? Vextal clicked weakly. How many ships are coming? Captain Nam Subin smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Admiral Yoon is bringing what we call a full diplomatic fleet. About 50 ships. 50 ships? For 12 specimens? For 12 children, Kim Jae-woo corrected. And grown-ups get really, really mad when someone hurts kids. As if to prove his point, the station shuddered as more human ships arrived. Through the viewports, the Vorthak could see massive human warships surrounding their research station. Vextal finally understood what he had done. He had not captured primitive specimens for study. He had kidnapped the children of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. He had started a war with people who fought harder for their young than most species fought for their entire homeworlds. What will happen to us? He asked weakly. Captain Nam Subin was helping the children gather their few belongings. That depends on whether our children are okay and how sorry you are for what you've done. Young Park So-jin looked up at the alien scientist. You made us scared and took us away from our families. That was mean. Vextal looked down at the small human child and felt something he had never experienced before. Shame. These were not specimens. They were someone's daughters and sons, and their parents had come to take them home. As the human medical team led the children toward the docking bay where ships waited to take them to safety, Kim Jae-woo turned back to Vextal. Next time, maybe just ask permission before you take someone's kids, he said seriously. Vextal nodded slowly. If there was a next time, he would remember this lesson for the rest of his very long life. Commander Oh Sung-ho stood on the bridge of the human warship Busan Thunder as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Around him, 15 other human vessels appeared in flashes of blue light. The rescue fleet had assembled faster than anyone thought possible. Target acquired, sir, reported Lieutenant Nam Subin from the weapons station. Vorthak Research Station bearing 27 Mark V. Oh Sung-ho studied the alien station on his view screen. It was huge, a collection of white metal spheres connected by long tubes. Bright light shone from countless windows. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful, but he knew that somewhere inside that station, human children were trapped in cages. Open a channel to the station, he ordered. Channel open. Sir. Vorthak Research Station. This is Commander Oh Sung-ho of the Human Federation Fleet. You are holding children of our species. Release them immediately or we will take them by force. There was a long pause before the reply came. The voice was translated from the Vorthak clicking language into standard galactic common. Human vessels, this is Chief Researcher Vextal. You are interfering with important scientific work. These specimens were legally collected from an unprotected world according to Galactic Consortium research protocols. Commander O felt his jaw clench. Specimens? Those are children, not specimens. Your emotional response is noted but irrelevant. These creatures show interesting behavioral patterns that require further study. Please withdraw from this area. Behind Oh Sung-ho, Captain Lee Taemin had just arrived aboard the New Seoul. His ship joined the formation, and Lee Taemin's angry voice came through the communications. Vextal, I am Captain Lee Taemin of the Human Diplomatic Corps. I demand to speak with your station commander immediately. I am the station commander, and I repeat, you must not interfere with our research. Dr. Lim Ji-woo's voice joined the conversation from the New Seoul. This is Dr. Lim Ji-woo, human xenobiologist. Chief Researcher Vextal, you may not understand, but those children belong to a species that values its young above all else. You have made a serious error. On the view screen, they could see the Vorthak station's defensive shields powering up. Weapon ports opened along the station's hull. The error is yours, Vextal replied. You claim these primitive creatures are your species, but our scans show you possess advanced technology. Primitive species do not travel between stars. Therefore, you are lying to steal our specimens, Commander. O closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, his expression was cold as space. Dr. Lim explained to this creature exactly what those children are. Dr. Lim Ji-woo's voice was carefully controlled. Vextal, those specimens are human offspring. Humans are the species that defeated the Zarathi Empire. We are the species that turns asteroids into weapons when we're angry. We are the species that has never lost a war in our entire history. Impossible. Our database shows no record of such achievements by primitive bipeds. That's because, said Captain Lee Taemin, your database is incomplete. And those children you're studying? Their parents are about to show you what humans do when their young are threatened. On the alien station, Chief Researcher Vextal was beginning to feel confused. The creatures in his laboratory were clearly primitive. They had no advanced technology, spoke in simple vocal patterns, and showed basic emotional responses. But these ships surrounding his station carried weapons that his sensors couldn't fully understand. Surely, you can appreciate the scientific value of studying these creatures. Social bonding behaviors, Vextal tried again. They display remarkable cooperation for such a primitive species. One specimen has even begun organizing the others. Commander O's patience finally snapped. His voice boomed across all communication channels, broadcasting not just to the Vorthak station but to every ship in the area. You caged human children? Are you insane? The words echoed through space, picked up and retransmitted by every human vessel. On other ships in the fleet, human crew members heard their commander's outrage and felt the same fury burning in their hearts. Lieutenant Nam Soo-bin looked up from her console. Sir, I'm reading massive power buildups in their defensive systems. They're preparing to fight. Of course they are, Oh Sung-ho said quietly. They still don't understand what they've done. Dr. Lim Ji-woo tried one more time to make the aliens understand. Vextal listened carefully. In human culture, harming a child is the worst crime possible. Every human in this fleet has children, or brothers and sisters, or remembers being a child themselves. You haven't just captured specimens, you've declared war on an entire species. Absurd. We are scientists, not warriors. So were we, said Captain Lee Taemin, until you put our children in cages. On his station, Vextal was reviewing the tactical situation. His research station had powerful shields and defensive weapons designed to repel pirates or hostile aliens. The human ships appeared to be smaller than his station, and there were only 16 of them. He made the biggest mistake of his life. Human vessels, withdraw immediately, or we will defend ourselves. Our weapons are more than capable of destroying your primitive ships, Commander. Oh looked around his bridge at his crew. He saw Lieutenant Nam Soo-bin checking her weapon systems. He saw Ensign Park Dong-hyun reviewing the station's structural plans. He saw the faces of people who had dropped everything to rescue children they had never met. All ships, he said calmly. This is Commander O. The Vorthak have refused to release our children. They have chosen to fight instead of negotiate. They believe we are primitive, he paused, thinking of little Kim Jae-woo trying to keep the other children calm in their cages. Show them how wrong they are. The first human weapons fired 3 seconds later. The Vorthak shields, designed to stop conventional energy weapons, barely slowed down the human plasma cannons. Explosions bloomed along the station's hull as defensive guns were systematically destroyed. Impossible, Vextel screamed over the communications. Your weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. That's the thing about underestimating humans, said Dr. Lim Ji-woo as the new soul fired its own weapons. We always surprise you. The battle was over in minutes. The Vorthak research station hung helpless in space, its weapons destroyed, its shields down, its hull breached in a dozen places. But the human weapons had been careful. None of the shots had hit the areas where the children were being held. Vextel, said Commander. Oh, prepare to be boarded. We're coming for our children. In the laboratory section of the station, young Kim Jae-woo felt the explosions shaking the walls. He had been teaching the other children a simple game to keep them calm, but now he stood up and looked around. Don't be scared, he told the others. I think help is coming. 10-year-old Park So-jin looked up at him with wide eyes. How do you know? Kim Jae-woo smiled. Because that's what grown-ups do. They come when kids need help. He was right. Help was coming, armed with the fury of an entire species. Captain Lee Taemin sat in his command chair aboard the human diplomatic corps vessel New Seoul. The ship floated peacefully near the Kalari homeworld, where trade talks had been going well for 3 days. The Kalari were a friendly species with blue skin and large eyes. They made beautiful crystals that humans loved, and they wanted human medicine in return. Captain, called Communications Officer Park Ji-hoon from his station. We have a priority message coming in from Galactic Consortium headquarters. Lee Taemin nodded. Put it on the main screen. The message began to play, and Lee Taemin's blood turned cold. The video showed a sterile white room with metal walls and bright lights. Inside were cages. Not animal cages, but something worse. Clear boxes that held children. Human children. Lee Taemin stood up slowly, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. On the screen, he could see young faces pressed against the transparent walls. A boy with messy black hair sat in one corner, trying to comfort a younger girl who was crying. Another boy stood at the front of his cage, banging on the wall and shouting words that couldn't be heard through the video. My God, whispered Dr. Lim Ji-woo, the ship's science officer. Those are our children. Tall insect-like aliens moved around the cages, making notes on electronic tablets. They had 4 arms each and heads that looked like giant mantises. Their movements were cold and clinical as they observed the frightened children like they were studying lab rats. The video showed a nameplate on each cage. Lee Taemin could read some of the names: Kang Min-ho, Park So-jin, Kim Jae-woo. The children looked to be between 6 and 12 years old. Some sat quietly with tears running down their faces. Others paced in their small spaces like caged animals. Where did this come from? Lee Taemin asked, his voice tight with anger. Park Ji-hoon checked his console. The transmission originated from a Vorthak research station in the Kepler sector. It was sent to all Galactic Consortium members as a scientific discovery announcement. A discovery announcement? Lee Taemin felt his anger rising. They're announcing that they captured our children. The message continued playing. A Vorthak scientist appeared on screen speaking in their clicking language. Subtitles appeared at the bottom. The Vorthak Research Division is pleased to announce the successful capture of primitive bipedal specimens from the newly discovered world designated Earth 3947. Initial studies show fascinating behavioral patterns and emotional responses to controlled environments. Lee Taemin's hands clenched into fists. Primitive specimens? Controlled environments? He turned to his communications officer. Get me Admiral Yoon Hee-jin at Fleet Command. Emergency priority. Yes, sir. While they waited for the connection, Lee Taemin watched the video again. He noticed more details that made his anger burn hotter. The children were wearing the same clothes they had probably been taken in. School uniforms, play clothes, pajamas. Some still clutched toys or stuffed animals. Young Kim Jae-woo, who looked about 10 years old, was trying to organize the other children. He was moving his hands to show them something, probably trying to keep them calm. Even in captivity, the boy was showing leadership. Admiral Yoon on the line, sir, Park Ji-hoon announced. The screen switched to show Admiral Yoon Hye-jin in her office at Human Fleet Command. She was a stern woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. When she saw Lee Taemin's expression, her face became serious. Captain Lee, what's the emergency? Admiral, we have a situation. The Vorthak have captured human children. They're holding them in some kind of research facility and calling them primitive specimens. Admiral Yoon's face went pale, then red with anger. Show me. Lee Tae-min forwarded the video transmission. He watched the Admiral's expression change from shock to cold fury as she saw the caged children. How many? She asked quietly. At least 12 that we can see in this video, ma'am. Possibly more. Admiral Yoon was silent for a long moment, staring at the screen where little Park So-jin was curled up in a corner, holding what looked like a small doll. Captain, I'm authorizing Emergency Response Protocol 7. Commander Oh Sung-ho is already mobilizing a rescue fleet. You are to proceed immediately to the Vorthak Research Station and demand the release of our people. Understood, Admiral. What about diplomatic protocols? Admiral Yoon's smile was cold and dangerous. Captain, when someone cages our children and calls them specimens, diplomatic protocols become flexible. Commander Oh will have full military authorization. Use whatever force is necessary. The connection ended and Lee Tae-min turned to his crew. Everyone on the bridge had heard the conversation. Their faces showed the same anger he felt. Helm, set course for the Kepler sector, maximum speed, he ordered. Sir, said Dr. Lim Ji-woo, should we inform our Kalari hosts that we're leaving? Lee Tae-min paused. The Kalari had become good friends to humanity. They deserved an explanation. Yes, tell them we have an emergency. Children of our species have been taken by hostile aliens. Within minutes, they received a response from the Kalari leadership. The message was short but powerful. The Kalari stand with humanity. Our prayers go with your children. As the new soul jumped to faster-than-light speed, Lee Tae-min watched the stars blur past the view screen. He thought about the children in those cages, probably wondering why no one was coming to help them. Don't worry, he said quietly. We're coming. Dr. Lim Ji-woo moved to stand beside his captain. Sir, what do we know about the Vorthak? They're new to the Galactic Consortium. Joined about 2 years ago. They're supposed to be scientists and researchers, very advanced technology, but they've never had contact with humans before. That's about to change, Dr. Lim Ji-woo said grimly. Lee Tae-min nodded. The Vorthak had made a terrible mistake. They had taken human children and treated them like animals in a lab. They would learn that humans were very different from other species in the galaxy. They would learn that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. In the depths of space, the rescue fleet was already moving. Ships that had been on patrol missions, exploration duties, and peaceful negotiations all changed course. The word was spreading through human space. Our children are in danger. And when humans said our children, they meant every single child of their species, anywhere in the galaxy. The Vorthak were about to discover what happened when you threatened a human child. They were about to learn why humanity had never lost a war.